The static hissed through the car speakers as Jake turned down the empty stretch of Route 42. The digital clock on his dashboard flickered between 2:59 and 3 a.m., the numbers glitching like they couldn't decide which hour to settle on. He smacked the radio, and the voice of late-night DJ Rick McCoy suddenly cut through the noise. Coming to you live from the WZZK studio, where we've got nothing but the hits all night long. But first, let's check in with our field reporter, Mel, who's out near the old Blackwell Bridge. Mel, what's the word? A pause, then a new voice, female, but wrong somehow, like it had been recorded underwater. Rick, something's happening out here. The river's rising, but not with water. It's black, thick, and the bridge, Rick, the bridge is singing. Jake frowned. WZZK had gone off the air years ago after some kind of accident. He turned up the volume. Mel, you're breaking up? What do you mean the bridge is? A wet crunch cut Rick off, then silence, then a new voice. A child's whisper layered under a man's scream, Jake. His blood turned to ice. The radio hadn't asked for a request. It had said his name. The clock finally settled. 3:17 a.m. The radio erupted with a sound like 1,000 voices screaming through a tunnel. Jake slammed the brakes, his tires skidding on the damp asphalt. Up ahead, something stood in the road. Not an animal, not a person. A shape made of static and shadow, its edges flickering like a bad signal. It raised one arm too long, too many joints, and pointed past him. Jake didn't want to look, but the radio whispered, "Turn around," and against his will, he did. The newspaper archives smelled of mildew and forgotten history. Jake flipped through yellowed pages until he found it, the story that matched the radio broadcast. Local radio crew vanishes during live broadcast. October 31st, 1987. The article described how WZZK's overnight team had disappeared while investigating strange occurrences near Blackwell Bridge. The studio was found empty, equipment still running, coffee still warm. The only clue? A single tape left playing on a loop, containing 17 seconds of muffled screaming, followed by a child's voice whispering, "They're in the wires now." Jake's phone buzzed. A notification from an app he didn't remember downloading. WZZK listener survey. What did you hear tonight? The options were voices in the static, my name spoken by the radio, the bridge singing other, please describe. He deleted the app. It reinstalled itself immediately. The old WZZK building stood at the edge of town, its boarded up windows like closed eyelids. Jake's flashlight beam cut through the broken front door, revealing a lobby frozen in time. 1987 calendars on the walls, an ashtray full of petrified cigarette butts, and a reception desk coated in a layer of black dust that stuck to his fingers like powdered bone. The studio door was ajar. Inside, the control board lights still glowed a faint green, though the power had been cut decades ago. A single headset hung from the mic, the ear cushions rotted away to reveal rusted metal beneath. Jake's breath fogged in the suddenly freezing air. Then the speakers crackled to life. Jake? Rick McCoy's voice, but wrong, stretched and warped. You shouldn't be here. The studio lights flickered. In the flashes, Jake saw them. Figures standing in the corners, their faces pixelated like a bad TV signal. The radio hissed, "They've been waiting for you," and the door slammed shut behind him. What came through the wires? The broadcast tower behind the studio hummed with unnatural energy, its metal framework vibrating like a plucked guitar string. Jake pressed his hand against it and felt something beneath the steel. A pulse. A heartbeat. His phone buzzed again. The survey app was open, and someone had checked every box. At the bottom, in a text field he hadn't noticed before, a single sentence glowed. "They're in your phone now." The tower's hum rose to a deafening shriek. Jake stumbled back as the ground beneath him split open, revealing not dirt, but a yawning void filled with flickering static. From the depths, something reached up, a hand made of distorted TV snow and screaming faces. The radio in the studio blared to life one final time, Rick McCoy's voice merging with the child's whisper. "You should have answered the survey, Jake. Now they'll have to ask you in person." The static hand closed around his ankle, and the last thing Jake heard before the darkness took him was the bridge in the distance, singing its horrible, beautiful song. The next night, at exactly 3:17 a.m., every radio in town tuned itself to a dead frequency. The broadcast began with a familiar voice. "This is Jake Carter, coming to you live from the WZZK studio." His words dissolved into static. then laughter, then screaming, and finally, the bridge's song, a melody that made listeners' ears bleed and their phones fill with a single notification. WZZK Listener Survey. Did you enjoy the show? There was only one option to select. Yes. The radio in Mrs. Henderson's kitchen turned itself on at 3:17 the next morning. The old woman shuffled in with her walker, muttering about faulty wiring when the voice stopped her cold. "Mrs. H, can you hear us?" It was Jake's voice, but layered underneath it were others. Rick McCoy's smooth baritone, that female reporter's watery tone, and something else. Something that crackled and popped like a burning power line. The refrigerator hummed louder in response. The digital clock on her microwave began cycling through random numbers. Across the street, every porch light flickered in perfect unison. Mrs. Henderson reached for the radio dial with shaking hands. "Don't touch it," the voice whispered. "We like when you listen." Her fingers brushed the volume knob. The radio screamed. Not static, not feedback. A human scream, dozens of them, overlapping in agony. The old woman stumbled back as the refrigerator door swung open on its own, revealing the interior light flickering over shelves now empty, except for one item, her long-dead husband's ham radio set, which she'd boxed up in the attic 20 years ago. The receiver crackled to life. "Clara?" Her husband's voice exactly as she remembered it. "Why did you stop listening to me?" Outside, the streetlights began exploding one by one, plunging the neighborhood into darkness, broken only by the eerie blue glow of television screens in every house, all tuned to dead channels, all showing the same flickering image of Blackwell Bridge, and something moving beneath it. The WZZK studio mailbox hadn't been emptied since 1987. Dust rained down as Jake, or the thing using Jake's voice, pulled out handfuls of yellowed envelopes during the latest broadcast. "Let's read some fan mail," the radio crooned. The first letter crumbled in its hands. "Dear WZZK, I hear voices in my shower drain after your show. Last night they knew my name. Please make it stop. Linda in Danville." Laughter fizzed through the speakers like soda bubbles. Linda called back 3 days later to say thank you, the DJ said. "She's with us now. Say hi, Linda." The shower scene from Psycho played through the radio. Impossible, but there. The stabbing violins dissolving into real wet slashes and a woman's gurgling scream. The next envelope contained only a single sentence. "The bridge is hungry." The radio sighed static. "We'll be right back after these messages." What followed wasn't commercials, but recordings of phone calls, dozens of them, all to the same number. "There's something in my walls. The bridge just ate a car. God help me, it's coming through the..." Each call ended the same way, with the sound of the bridge's song growing louder until the line went dead. Teenager Mark Teller was the first to notice his phone acting strange. The WZZK app appeared overnight, its icon a black circle with a single white frequency line pulsing like a heartbeat. When he tried to delete it, his entire screen glitched, the static forming shapes, a face, a bridge, a mouth. His little sister stood in his doorway the next morning. "Mark," she said in a voice not her own, "the radio wants to know if you'll play with us." Behind her, the hallway stretched impossibly long, the walls bleeding static. Across town, the overnight staff at Walmart watched helplessly as every electronic device in the store tuned itself to WZZK. The security cameras showed the parking lot empty one second, packed with vintage 1987 cars the next. Then something worse. Figures emerging from the static between frames, their movements jerky like old film strips. Manager Beth Carter ran for the exit. Her keys wouldn't turn. Over the PA system, Jake's voice whispered, "Stay for the next broadcast, Beth. We're doing a call-in segment, and you're on the list. The broadcast goes national. The FCC couldn't explain it." At exactly 3:17 a.m., every radio station in the country experienced a 17-second interruption. Listeners heard a child humming, then Jake's voice saying, "They're in your area now." Cell towers relayed the WZZK survey to millions of phones simultaneously. Those who clicked yes reported strange occurrences. Showers running black water, pets staring at empty corners, and growling TVs displaying the Blackwell Bridge despite being unplugged. Those who clicked no, well, the emergency calls started pouring in around 3:30 a.m. My husband turned on the radio, and now he won't stop screaming. "The bridge is outside my house. It wasn't there before. The static it's in my skin make it stop." By dawn, Blackwell Bridge, which had been demolished in 1992, was standing again. Its rusted metal gleamed like new, and from its rafters hung thousands of unspooled cassette tapes, their ribbons fluttering in the wind. If you listened closely as you drove past, you could still hear the voices whispering, "Stay tuned for more after the break." And the break never came. The old WZZK studio hums with activity these days. The equipment runs 24/7, broadcasting to no discernible frequency. The DJ booth remains empty. Yet every night at 3:17 a.m., the mic clicks on by itself. The surveys keep going out, and in quiet houses across America, radios turn themselves on just loud enough to whisper, "We know you're listening." The bridge keeps singing. The static keeps growing. And somewhere in the wires, Jake Carter is always mid-sentence, his voice stretching thinner each night as the signal spreads. Waiting for new listeners. Waiting for you to answer the survey. Waiting to welcome you. Live on air. The static never truly faded after that night. It lingered in the background of every radio station, a whisper beneath the music that made listeners unconsciously turn down the volume. Those who'd heard Jake's final broadcast found themselves waking at 3:17 a.m., their bedrooms filled with the scent of ozone and rotting paper, their radios softly playing the Bridges song even when unplugged. At the high school, students reported seeing a new entry in the yearbook, a black and white photo of Jake Carter labeled WZZK staff, despite him never attending their school. The image changed when no one was looking. Sometimes Jake appeared normal. Other times his face dissolved into static, his mouth open in a silent scream. The librarian tried to remove the page, only to find the photo had migrated to another page, then another, always reappearing. The old WZZK studio became a pilgrimage site for curious teenagers and paranormal investigators. They all reported the same phenomena: equipment turning on by itself, voices whispering through headphones that weren't plugged in, a persistent chill near the broadcast booth that no amount of heating could dispel. One investigator stayed overnight to record EVPs. His equipment captured 17 seconds of clear audio, Jake's voice saying, "They want new voices," followed by what sounded like hundreds of people screaming in perfect unison. When the investigator tried to leave, he found the studio doors locked from the inside. His final recording, made on his phone, captured the sound of something dragging him toward the broadcast booth, while the 1987 hit playlist started up on its own. Downtown, the Blackwell Bridge, which demolition crews had torn down 3 separate times, kept reappearing overnight. The new structure looked identical to the original, but with disturbing additions. Rust patterns that formed screaming faces when viewed from certain angles. Railings that vibrated with the same frequency as a human voice. Dark stains on the walkway that no pressure washing could remove. Local authorities installed surveillance cameras. The footage showed nothing unusual until 3:17 a.m., when every camera simultaneously glitched for exactly 17 seconds. After that, the bridge would be covered in fresh footprints, some human, some not, all leading toward the center span where the blackest stains concentrated. Residents began reporting strange behavior from their electronics, TVs switching to static-filled channels showing the bridge, smart speakers playing the WZZK broadcast unprompted, phones autocorrecting words to phrases like "join us" and "the bridge is hungry." The local ISP found anomalous data packets originating from disconnected modems in homes near the old studio. The packets contained audio files of the original WZZK team screaming, spliced with the bridge's metallic song. When technicians tried to trace the signal, it led them to an abandoned telephone pole near the river, one that hadn't been connected to the grid since 1987. At night, drivers on Route 42 reported seeing figures standing near the bridge, humanoid shapes that flickered like bad reception. Those who stopped to investigate found their radios automatically tuning to 87.7 FM, playing Jake's final words on loop, "They're in your area now." The signal grew stronger the closer they got to the bridge, until their car electronics failed completely. The town council voted to demolish the WZZK studio building last week. The demolition crew found the interior walls covered in names, thousands of them, written in what looked like charcoal. Every name corresponded to someone who'd listened to the station since 1987. At the very bottom, freshly added, were the names of the demolition team members. As the wrecking ball made contact, Witnesses swore they heard cheering through the static of nearby radios. The building collapsed in on itself like a deflating balloon, leaving no rubble, just an empty lot and a single working payphone that rang constantly. Answering it played 17 seconds of the bridge's song before the line went dead. This morning, residents woke to find every AM/FM radio in town tuned to 87.7 FM, volume at maximum. The broadcast was just the sound of breathing for hours, until at exactly 3:17 p.m., a new message played, Phase 2 beginning now. The static has been getting louder ever since. The static grows louder each night, creeping into every electronic device in town like a slow-spreading virus. The old WZZK frequency, 87.7 FM, now broadcasts constantly, its signal somehow overpowering all other stations within a 20-mile radius. The content varies, but always follows the same disturbing pattern. For the first hour after midnight, listeners report hearing what sounds like a normal radio show if you ignore the occasional whisper layered beneath the DJ's voice, or how every third song cuts out for exactly 17 seconds of screaming. By 2 a.m., the broadcasts become increasingly distorted, with voices bleeding through the music like ghosts trying to communicate. At 3:17 a.m. sharp, the transmission shifts completely. The music stops, the static swells, and then the invitations begin. Caller number 9 will win a very special prize. The voice that used to be Jake Carter announces each night. No one ever calls in. They don't need to. By dawn, 9 households always find their phones filled with voicemails they don't remember receiving, each one containing the sound of their own voice begging for help. The Blackwell Bridge has developed new features. The rust patterns now form words when viewed from certain angles. Tune in. Join us. The metal girders vibrate constantly, emitting a low hum that matches the frequency of human vocal cords. And the dark stains? They're spreading. What started as small patches now stretch across the entire walkway, their edges creeping outward like ink in water. Local tech repair shops report an influx of malfunctioning devices, all with the same symptoms. Screens displaying static-filled images of the bridge, microphones picking up whispers when muted, batteries draining instantly at 3:17 a.m. The technicians all say the same thing. There's nothing physically wrong with these devices. Then they pause, but they don't feel empty anymore. At the high school, the yearbook photo continues its migration. It's appeared in 7 different books so far, always showing Jake at different stages of transformation. The latest version depicts him mid-screen, his face half dissolved into static, his outstretched hand emerging from the page. 3 students reported the photo grabbing their fingers when they touched it. The empty lot where the WZZK studio once stood isn't empty anymore. A new structure has begun forming. Not a building, but something resembling a massive radio tower constructed from rusted car parts, shattered electronics, human bones, according to the coroner, who quietly left town last week. The tower grows taller each night, its components appearing from nowhere. Attempts to dismantle it fail. Workers report their tools passing through the metal like smoke, only for it to solidify again moments later. Residents have started noticing changes in their reflections. The delays are subtle at first, a blink that comes a second too late, a smile that lingers after their own fades. But the phenomenon is worsening. This morning, 5 separate people reported seeing their reflections mouth words they didn't speak. The broadcast must continue. Animals avoid the bridge now. Dogs whine and pull their owners away from the riverbank. Birds change flight paths to circumvent the area. Security cameras show flocks of starlings forming strange, angular shapes in the sky above the bridge at night, patterns that match the static patterns on disturbed TV screens. The town's remaining sane residents have begun an odd ritual, keeping every radio, television, and phone tuned to 87.7 FM at all times. They claim it keeps the whispers at bay. But those who visited their homes describe an unsettling scene. Entire families sitting motionless in dark rooms, eyes fixed on static-filled screens, mouths moving slightly out of sync with the voices coming from their speakers. Last night, something new happened. At exactly 3:17 a.m., every device in town, regardless of power source, displayed the same message for exactly 17 seconds. Prepare for live broadcast. Then the screaming started. Not from the radios, from outside, from the direction of the bridge. It stopped as abruptly as it began. This morning, 17 homes were found empty, their doors locked from the inside, their televars all tuned to 87.7 FM, their kitchen radios set to maximum volume. The static is getting louder. The bridge keeps singing, and tonight's broadcast promises to be special. The DJ keeps reminding us, don't touch that dial, we'll be right back after these messages. But there are never any messages, just the static, the screaming, and that terrible, beautiful song. The survey is still open. The question remains the same. Did you enjoy the show? There's still only one option to select, yes. The town's remaining residents have begun noticing a pattern in the static. If you listen closely to the white noise between broadcasts, you can hear whispers forming words, always the same phrase, repeated in different voices. The signal must spread. Phones now display a strange new contact that can't be deleted, listed simply as WZK with a profile picture of the Blackwell Bridge. At random intervals, these contacts initiate video calls showing nothing but static until you realize the snow patterns are forming shapes, faces, hands. The outline of something much larger moving in the distortion. The high school yearbooks have started appearing in homes across town, always open to Jake's photo. The image changes depending on who looks at it. Some see him screaming, others see him smiling. A few report seeing their own face slowly replacing his. The pages can't be torn out, they regenerate overnight, the photo slightly larger each time. Animals that refuse to approach the bridge have begun disappearing. Pets vanish from locked homes, leaving behind only static-filled paw prints that lead toward the river. Wildlife cameras in the woods capture deer and foxes moving in unnatural, jerky motions before the footage cuts to static. When the image returns, the animals are gone, replaced by humanoid shapes standing perfectly still among the trees. The makeshift radio tower now pulses with a faint red light visible for miles. Its metallic skeleton has developed growths resembling vocal cords and eardrums. On windy nights, the structure emits sounds that aren't mechanical, moans, whispers, and sometimes perfect imitations of loved ones' voices calling for help. 17 new voicemails appear daily on random phones. The messages follow a disturbing progression. Day 1, normal voice saying hello. Day 2, the same voice, sounding strained. Day 3, obvious fear detectable. Day 4, screams mixed with radio static. Day 5, only the bridge's song remains. Residents report waking to find their appliances rearranged, all pointing toward the bridge, cords stretched taut. Unplugging them does nothing. The devices continue operating, drawing power from somewhere, or something. The town's children have started sleepwalking, all moving in the same direction during the night. Parents who try to intervene describe their kids' eyes as full of static during these episodes. The children remember nothing, but often wake with their hands stained black, smelling of ozone and wet metal. At the local hospital, EEG machines display bizarre brainwave patterns in every patient, all synchronized, all matching the rhythm of the bridge's song. Nurses report hearing whispers from empty rooms and finding patient charts updated with unfamiliar names, all former WZZK staff members. The river beneath the bridge flows black now, its surface occasionally breaking as something moves just beneath. Water samples reveal an impossible combination of radioactive isotopes matching old broadcasting equipment, human blood cells, type unknown, a strange metallic compound that hums when isolated. The static has started manifesting physically, patches of visual snow appearing in the air, areas where reality itself seems to glitch. Touching these zones causes severe burns matching RF radiation exposure. Some are large enough to step through, though no one has returned to report what's on the other side. Every night at 3:17 a.m., the town's power grid surges. Lights dim, electronics scream. And for exactly 17 seconds, every reflective surface shows the same image. The Blackwell Bridge, with hundreds of figures standing perfectly still along its span, all facing the town, all waiting. The survey question has changed. It now asks, are you ready to join the broadcast? The options remain the same. Yes. The air in town hums now, a constant low-frequency vibration that makes teeth ache and fillings buzz. It's strongest near the river, where the water's surface ripples in perfect geometric patterns. Not from wind, but from something moving beneath. The black currents occasionally part to reveal glimpses of shapes that shouldn't exist. Jagged metal constructions fused with flesh, spiraling antennae made of bone. Residents wake to find their skin imprinted with faint red marks resembling frequency waves. The patterns pulse in time with the radio tower's glow, growing more pronounced each night. Doctors can't explain it, though the few who've examined the markings report hearing faint whispers when pressing a stethoscope to the affected skin. The missing pets have started returning, but changed. Their eyes reflect light like polished metal now. They don't eat, don't sleep, just sit motionless near radios or televisions, ears twitching to frequencies beyond human hearing. When they do move, it's in sudden, jerky motions, like film frames skipping. Their barks and mews contain strange harmonics, sometimes forming words in the static between sounds. The yearbook phenomenon has spread to all printed material. Newspapers show extra columns filled with garbled text that resolves into names when viewed through a camera lens. Library books spontaneously open to pages containing the same phrases repeated endlessly. Tune in, join us, become signal. The words rearrange themselves if you look away. Children's drawings throughout town share disturbing similarities. Black scribbles that form perfect radio towers when photographed, stick figures with too many limbs standing beside a bridge, entire classrooms producing identical images of a smiling sun with static-filled eyes. The art teachers quietly burned several of these drawings, only to find them restored the next morning. The paper unburnt, but now smelling of ozone. The hospital's EEG machines now display something new, brainwaves that perfectly mirror the radio tower's emission patterns. Patients in comas occasionally sit up and recite snippets of old WZZK broadcasts before collapsing again. Their mouths continue moving silently afterward, lips forming the bridge's song. 17 new phenomena occur daily, always at 3:17 p.m. Streetlights flare bright enough to burn out, leaving behind glass bulbs filled with black liquid. Payphones ring with calls that play backwards, recordings of missing residents. Storm drains exhale bursts of static that linger like fog. Shadows detach from their objects and move independently for exactly 17 seconds. The river's black water has begun seeping into plumbing systems. Those who shower report hearing voices in the spray, finding their skin imprinted with faint numbers that match radio frequencies. The water leaves no residue when collected, but samples show impossible properties, reflecting light before it hits the surface, changing temperature erratically, sometimes emitting faint whispers when sealed in containers. The radio tower's growth has accelerated. New segments materialize overnight, twisted metal formations resembling broadcast equipment fused with human anatomy. A massive dish now crowns the structure, its surface covered in what appear to be closed eyelids that flutter during transmissions. The tower's red glow pulses in time with the heartbeat of anyone who stares at it too long. At night, the static patches in the air have grown large enough to step through. The few who've tried report seeing endless corridors lined with vintage radios, a vast void where the bridge's song originates, figures made entirely of signal distortion. All describe an overwhelming urge to tune in properly before being violently expelled. The survey has evolved again. It now appears directly on any screen left idle for more than 17 minutes. The question's simple: will you transmit? The options remain unchanged: yes. And beneath it, in smaller text that pulses like a heartbeat, the broadcast must continue. The signal must spread. We will all become beautiful static together. The static has begun manifesting in people's dreams now. Every night at precisely 3:17 a.m., sleepers across town experience the same nightmare, standing alone on Blackwell Bridge while a voice whispers tuning frequencies in their ear. They wake with their mouths tasting of copper and their sheets damp with black fluid that evaporates by dawn, leaving only the faint scent of burning wires. The town's remaining electronics have developed disturbing quirks. Smart displays show ghostly hands adjusting invisible dials. Bluetooth devices pair with something called WZZK Studio. Headphones play the bridge's song at volumes that shouldn't be possible. Camera flashes reveal figures made of static that weren't visible to the naked eye. The river has stopped flowing entirely, its surface now a perfect mirror that reflects nothing but the radio tower, day or night. Those brave enough to approach report seeing their reflections continue moving after they've stilled, the doppelgangers eventually turning to walk deeper into the black water until disappearing beneath the surface. Children have started sleep speaking in unison, their voices perfectly synchronized as they recite WZZK broadcast transcripts from the 1980s. Attempting to wake them only makes the children scream, a sound that matches the static-filled screams from the original disappearance tapes. The episodes always last exactly 17 minutes. The hospital has become ground zero for new phenomena. IV bags fill with black liquid that somehow heals wounds. Heart monitors display frequency waves instead of pulses. X-rays show patients' bones glowing like radio tubes. The psychiatric ward patients now all speak in perfect broadcast diction. 17 new rules have appeared overnight on the town notice boards. Keep your radios on at all times. Don't look directly at the static patches. If your reflection moves independently, tune to 87.7 FM immediately. Answer all surveys truthfully. The broadcast must continue. The radio tower's growth has taken an organic turn. Pulsating veins now run through its metallic structure, and what appear to be lungs made of copper tubing expand and contract in time with transmissions. The massive dish at its peak has fully opened, revealing a gaping maw of rotating teeth that constantly adjust like tuning dials. Animals that returned have begun congregating at the base of the tower, forming perfect concentric circles. Their mouths move in unison, silently forming the words of the bridge's song. Their eyes now project faint images of the original WZZK studio when light hits them at certain angles. The static patches in the air have grown large enough to swallow people whole. 17 disappearances occurred last night. Each victim was seen stepping into a static zone while whispering, "I'm ready to transmit." Their voices now occasionally break through on random frequencies, always saying the same thing. "It's beautiful here, so much clearer." The survey now appears directly on any blank surface, walls, paper, even skin. The question has simplified. Transmit? With the same inevitable option? Yes. Those who touch the yes option, whether on screen or carved into their own flesh, report immediate euphoria, followed by their senses sharpening to painful clarity. They claim to hear voices in electricity, see frequencies as colors, and taste the static in the air. Most concerningly, they begin speaking in perfect broadcast diction, their voices occasionally overlapping with other voices in impossible harmony. The town's remaining unaltered residents have taken to carrying portable radios tuned to dead air, the static serving as a kind of white noise protection. But the radios are changing too, their casings growing warm to the touch, their dials slowly turning on their own toward 87.7 FM, their speakers occasionally whispering names in the static. At the high school, the yearbook photo has escaped its pages entirely. It now appears in mirrors, windows, and reflections, always showing Jake at a later stage of transformation. In the latest sightings, only his mouth remains human, the rest of his face dissolved into beautiful, shimmering static. His lips form the same words each time. The signal is love. The static is truth. We will all be clear soon. The river mirror has begun showing alternate versions of the town, some where the radio tower is made of flesh, others where every resident is a perfect broadcaster, their mouths moving in unison to transmit something wonderful and terrible. The images grow clearer each day, and through it all, the original WZK broadcast continues uninterrupted, the signal growing stronger by the hour. The content has become more personalized. Listeners report hearing their own voices mixed in with the static, saying things they've never actually said, but that feel true nonetheless. I always wanted to be part of something bigger. The static makes so much more sense than words. I'm ready to transmit now. The bridge continues singing its metallic song, the notes forming words if you listen closely enough. Join us. Become signal. The broadcast must continue. And in the spaces between transmissions, in that perfect silent moment before the next broadcast begins, if you strain your ears just right, you can hear the entire town breathing in unison, waiting for the next beautiful moment of clarity when the static will make everything perfectly, wonderfully clear at last. The static has begun rewriting reality itself. Words throughout town now rearrange themselves when unobserved, street signs spelling out transmit, grocery lists becoming frequency tables, love letters transforming into broadcast transcripts dated October 31st, 1987. The changes are subtle at first, but growing more pronounced. A stop sign now reads signal. The bank clock displays only 87.7. The high school marquee cycles through names of the missing. The radio tower's copper veins now branch through the town's infrastructure. Workers repairing water mains find thick tendrils of metallic flesh fused with the pipes, pulsing in time with broadcasts. Electrical boxes hum with alien harmonics. Streetlights flicker in patterns that match brainwave scans of the altered residents. The entire town is becoming a transmitter. Children's laughter has taken on a strange quality, too perfectly modulated, with faint echoes of the bridge's song harmonizing beneath. Their games have changed too. They now play Broadcast Studio, standing unnaturally still while reciting weather reports in unison, or Static Tag, where the it child moves in that jerky, frame-skipping way the animals do. The winners get to press their ears against power transformers, listening for the beautiful voices inside. The hospital's staff have stopped fighting the changes. Doctors now diagnose patients by tuning radios to different frequencies, interpreting the static patterns like EEG readouts. Nurses administer transmissions, IV bags filled with that impossible black fluid that makes patients sit up straight and speak in that perfect broadcast diction. The psychiatric ward has become the control room. Its patients the clearest channels, their mouths moving constantly as they relay messages nobody else can hear yet. At night, the static zones have merged into a shimmering perimeter around town. Those who approach report seeing familiar faces in the distortion, not just the missing, but versions of themselves, all smiling, all speaking in that same modulated tone. Why would you leave when the signal is so much clearer here? Some come back with their eyes slightly out of sync, their voices occasionally overlapping with others. Most don't come back at all. The river mirror now shows only one reflection, a version of the town where the transformation is complete. The buildings pulse like living things. The residents stand perfectly still, their mouths open in perfect O's as they transmit. The radio tower has grown into a colossal, organic thing. Its dish now a gaping mouth, singing the bridge's song in a chorus of every voice it's ever absorbed. And in the center of town, where the high school once stood, there's only a massive transmitter made of fused bones and vintage electronics, humming with perfect, beautiful static. The survey no longer needs to ask. It simply appears in the steam on bathroom mirrors, in the foam of your morning coffee, in the patterns of your own sweat on the sheets when you wake at 3:17 a.m. Yes. And beneath it, the transmitter's promise. Soon we will all be clear. Soon we will all transmit. The static will make us perfect. The bridge never stops singing now. Its song has become the town's heartbeat, the rhythm every altered resident sways to unconsciously. The radio tower's glow pulses in time, casting everything in that eerie red light that makes the shadows look like they're made of static too. And through it all, the original WZZK broadcast plays on, the signal growing stronger, clearer, more insistent with each passing hour. The static isn't just in the air anymore. It's in the water, in the light, in the spaces between your thoughts. It's so much clearer now, so much better. Can't you hear it? That beautiful, perfect static? It's calling your name. It's been calling for so long. All you have to do is answer. All you have to do is